Yeah, black family, we come to show and prove, you know. See, now what we looking at right here is a large structure. This is where they held African women, black men, and children in these castles. Slavery did happen out of Africa. So next time you hear someone say slavery didn't happen out of Africa, you can show him empirical, you can show her empirical evidence that slavery did happen out of Africa. This is one of 40 slave castles, big structure, buildings that held people captured until the Europeans showed up on the shores to export and import Africans into the Western world, also the Americans. So it's asinine to say slavery didn't happen when we have empirical proof. See, I deal with the data and the science. I deal with the data and the science. See, and when our people visit these slave castles on vacations, it is a major spiritual symposium. A spiritual symposium. People can feel the presence of the ancestors who died in these slave dungeons at Elmina Castle. This has the greatest history that is concentrated and rooted in colonial rule of white Western European who participated in the slave trade. To deny this history happened, you have to be oblivious purposely after viewing this large structure. Denying this history as a result of mental illness. There's an anti-African movement and agenda since our inception in contact with the European Caucasian. Today, there's a bigger agenda to exterminate Africans over natural resources. So we understand why these certain Negroes are going around divide and conquer and saying that none of us have African roots. We have no African blood running through our bloodline. We're Native American. We're Aboriginal. Did you know the Aboriginals, or the so-called red man native people, enslaved the African? That's how certain Indians became dark-skinned. It's called race mixing due to being raped by certain Indian chiefs or Aboriginal chiefs, native chiefs, whatever you want to call those people who migrated to America 16,000 years ago. The African was already here. Certain Africans was already here, called the Olmec. Let's not get off track. It's called race mixing, where African women were raped. That's how Indians and blacks mix. So what they mean when they say slavery didn't happen out of Africa, there's a big anti-African movement. You see what I'm saying? It's a big agenda between these European powers and the developing countries. There's a bigger plan to exterminate Africans because Africans are pushing back against the West. Africans are aligning themselves with China and Russia. So the extermination of blacks has been put in place. This is why Obama in the past and Chameleon Harris, who only black when it's convenient. They went to Africa like Uganda, Ghana, places like that, trying to make them accept LGBTQ gay agenda to stop the rise of Africans making black babies. There's an agenda. So I understand why these anti-African pretendians are running around with platforms trying to change history. Yes, the Africans are down with Russia, China against the West. Pay attention. Are we familiar with BRICS, the bloc? Yes, Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa. That is the acronym for BRICS. You feel what I'm saying? So these developing nations are ditching the American dollar, starting their own currency. Developing nations have all the resources. They have all the resources. So if the developing nations ditch the dollar, that means that America can buy natural resources using the American dollar. So when I hear these black people saying they ain't African, they Indians, we was already here, they're Aboriginal, the slave trade didn't happen. This is a government weapon of divide and conquer. It's easy to see. Yes, black family, this is easy to see that the government got their hand in the cause of trying to eliminate African unification, divide and conquer. It's easy to see, and it's easy to mislead a bunch of people who already hate themselves for being black. So why not be Indian? Divide and conquer is easy to mislead a people who already suffer from self-hate. The pretending Indian, Aboriginal just hate black people, African people. Self-hate was learned and taught on the slave plantation. So what we get is slave plantation information from the so-called Aboriginal. Hell no, America is not the motherland. She too small, too cold. Her grounds don't produce like almighty Africa. But look at this large structure. This is a slave dungeon. We gonna show and prove. Yeah, black family, this video right here, we up in Ghana right now. You know, the Portuguese, you know, they built this large monument that we about to look at in 1482, I believe. The Portuguese built this in 1482. First established as a trade settlement, you know, the Dutch took it from the Portuguese in 1637. You know what I'm saying? You know, the Gold Coast, you know, this is what this the slave trade. You know, they say it didn't happen up out of Africa, but we're going to let this video show and prove. This large structure that you're looking at, look at it. Like a penitentiary that I was in. This place held our ancestors.
This area is where the slaves were bought in and given a bath, their last bath, and then they were checked by the doctors to make sure they were still healthy because they had journeyed so long in the shackles. Some were scarred and some were just left behind because they couldn't make it. And so basically they would bring them here, fatten them up for a few days, give them their last bath, shave off all of their hair, and then they would, it's just so much information that is not shared with us in the U.S. and it's just so overwhelming. But anyway, then they would cover them in palm oil and try to hide all the wounds that they had to make them look better for being sold. Whew. Anyway, it's a lot. It's a lot.
About the soldiers, the second floor was meant for the deputy governor and the last rooms for the governor. So the more important a person is perceived to be, the higher up. The disheartening part to hear is that on our soil, you were the ones who were kept beneath the European soldiers.
So the few cells down here over 600 men were kept. The ones who survived then went through the door of no return and had no clue where they were.
Not that they worship God, but they play worship God. I keep on saying this, the language is not very powerful. So sometimes we need to be mindful of the language that we use in narrating the very truth.
I mean, can you imagine the scratches and
Black people, this is proof that a slave trade happened up out of Africa. This is empirical evidence. What is empirical evidence? The information obtained through observation, documentation of certain behavior and patterns through a experiment, empirical evidence. You know what I'm saying, Quint? Essential part of scientific method research applicable in many disciplines. So we looking at a large building. We have a tour guide who's giving us the history. So we got the data. We got the dates. You feel what I'm saying?
people are putting they were just crowded in here.
Now this is called the European South. A South created for the European soldiers who misbehaved on this from that themselves. That is, they went to town without permission or they got drunk. Measures need to be put in place by their own superiors to ensure discipline. As a result, such wars will end up here. But note this, because this cell was meant for their own people.
Did you hear what this brother said? That cell was made for the slave capturers. They own soldiers, they own people. They had to lock in this cell. What was they doing that was so unjust to the black men and women and children that were captured as slaves in this dungeon, this slave castle? You know, some people trying to make light of slavery like it didn't exist. And I don't want nobody to think that slavery didn't happen. I don't want our children not to know the extent of the European greed. What would it do for money? Enslaved and killed your people and treated your people like animals. And some fool running around here with a feather in his head talking about he's shitting bull. He White River. And the slave trade didn't happen, knowing that some of the Indians enslaved blacks. I'm about to show that too. I'm going to show Improve tonight. Mash up the light. This is King Chris, Pan-African TV. This is King Chris, Pan-African TV.
I wonder.
And this room, this cell is airy.
Yeah.
And they just stay here for just a few hours. As they await their release, they have access to food, they have access to water. This is still the original gate, where the letter of translation was for her to translate. Now we are going to compare the condition of the European cell to the condemned cell.
Because I was wondering, I was thinking, wow, they said, you know. Wow.
I was wondering what that symbol is.
So let's enter and see.
And then look at the difference with the door, Riley.
You got to test these more details.
So this was for the Europeans who got in trouble. And this is where the slaves were put. There's no window for ventilation, no light. Oh my, look at that. Barely any opening on the door.
This is a cell called the condemned cell. A cell created for some of the male captives who were held in the dungeons. That's why the illiterates in the dungeons, they were not given freedom. They fought for their release at any given chance that they had. Because of that, they saw them to be a threat. They were regarded as rebels, as punishment They were taken out of the dungeons, put them in cages, brought them into this cell, locked this door, and they starved all of them to death.
You see what the Europeans did to our people? And then you say slavery didn't happen out of Africa. No wonder things don't happen in rotation for black people in this country, because we turn our back on our ancestors and say slavery didn't happen out of Africa. We must be asinine. We must hate ourselves so much that Europeans taught us to hate our history and try to deny this history. We're great people making it through this type of trauma. They starved brothers and sisters to death that was rebellious, who fought against being oppressed. Did you hear what this tourman said? This tour guide said? You feel me? Pan-African must throw that spear tonight. I'm throwing that spear tonight. It's wartime. I'm sticking up for mine.
As punishment, they were taken out of the dungeons, put them in cages, brought them into this cell, locked this door, and they starved all of them.
Starved them to death.
No food, no water. No African came into this cell and returned alive or survived. That's why we saw the skull and the crossbones.
That's why you saw the crossbones, the skull and the crossbones for that particular cell that they put brothers in that was rebellious, who fought against the slave capturers. These people died a horrific death, starved to death. Can you imagine? Then you got a motherfucker running around here because he hate himself, talking about the slave trade didn't happen out of Africa. It's impossible. You Negroes just look for a convenient excuse to back away from struggle. Ain't that what the minister said? I believe the minister Farrakhan when he said that. Niggas don't want to fight back, but I know what's going on with the anti-African agenda. I know what's going on with the anti-African agenda. 2024, we gonna all see that some of our African brothers and sisters gonna have to lose their life over the natural resources of Africa. So these niggas can look away, say, them ain't our people. We Indians. Cowards.
Wow.
This metal of the holes served as big holes for the soldiers. So from time to time, they look through to see if someone is dead. The door was opened. Remove the dead body, straight into the ocean, and the Lord intervened.
Throw the dead body into the ocean. The soldiers could look through there and see if anybody died in this particular holding cell. When someone died, they threw them out into the ocean. But the slave trade didn't happen out of Africa. How asinine and retarded that sound. I'm throwing that spear tonight. I'm Shaka Zulu tonight. I'm beating on my chest. This is an African warrior speaking. I ain't no Indian. I gave birth to an Indian. I'm the original man. I'm native to the planet. I'm not no aboriginal. I am that man. Anything come after me is mankind. This King Chris, man. This King Chris. Pan-African TV. We throwing that spear tonight.
You can see, from time to time, they look through to see if someone is dead. The door was opened. Remove the dead body, straight into the ocean, and the Lord intervened. You can see it is quite
Yes.
This problem for help came from nowhere, except
all of the little stories are amazing, are fascinating.
Actor Don Cheadle has never heard anything about his ancestors who lived through the aftermath of slavery. So we searched for clues about his father's side of the family. The paper trail that we uncovered confounded our expectations. Unlike most African Americans who were freed by the end of the Civil War, your ancestors weren't.
Oh, Don Cheadle, his ancestors wasn't free when the slave trade had been abolished in this country. some apparent reason, he was still, his ancestors rather, was still held in bondage. Let's see what's going on. You know, I'm smashing these Aboriginal pretendians tonight. This is wartime. I'm protecting, you know what I'm saying, the ancestors, you know, and then, you know, all the, you know, the people lived before us, the historians, you know, the godfather of historians like Dr. Ben, you know, John Henry Clark, Ivan Van Sertel. You know, I'm defending all them because I know what they taught us. They taught us, you know, how the Native Americans, you know, enslaved us, you know what I'm saying, the African. You feel what I'm saying? They keep saying the slave trade didn't happen out of African. I'm about to prove how black people was raped, you know what I'm saying, by the Native American. You feel what I'm saying?
They couldn't get it right. Well, they just stuck to it.
Well, take a look at this.
Chickasaw Nation Freedmen Roll.
This document is an official enrollment card for the Chickasaw Freedmen, the former slaves owned by the Chickasaw Nation.
The Africans owned by who? The Chickasaw Nation. Who are the Chickasaw Nation? You feel me? This is the Pan-African TV. You know, make sure I get them 1,000 subscribers, brothers and sisters, because they trying to hamper me.
Owned by the Chickasaw Nation.
This document is an official enrollment card for the Chickasaw Freedmen, the former slaves owned by the Chickasaw Nation.
Owned by the Chickasaw Nation.
Owned by the Chickasaw Nation. Your ancestors were enslaved by Native Americans. Here's your great-great-grandmother, Mary Kemp, her 11 children, including Bill Cheadle, your great-grandfather, William. And you can see William's father, Henderson, or Hance Cheadle. You are one of the few African Americans who was not enslaved by white people, but enslaved by Native Americans.
I don't know how I feel about that. It's crazy because
most people don't realize that the Cherokee, Creek, Seminole, Choctaw, and Chickasaw nations owned slaves.
Did you hear that? But Dane Calloway say he know that his father's side of the family, he know his family side of the family, he know his family side of the family is Cherokee. So if your father's side of the family is Cherokee, 9 times out of 10, Dane Calloway people on his father's side of his family were enslaved. But if you look at Dane Calloway's big nose, you can't hide the Africanness inside of him. But Dane Calloway has a large following. They follow this dude, man. He's backed by the government. Oh, yeah. See, when I was Underground Warrior TV, I'm underground for real. I'm not backed. I'm not sponsored by nobody. That's why they attack me. You feel me? But check this out.
As self-governing entities, they weren't subject to the laws of the United States. So what did this mean for Don Cheadle's ancestors? When the Civil War ended, the 5 civilized tribes kept their slaves. They refused to liberate their slaves.
What? The Native American refused to free the African? That these black people in America don't want to be because of the rape history? I would be ashamed of the Indian blood that run through my bloodline because I don't know if it's from, if it was consent or if it was rape. Just like I'm ashamed if white blood ran through my bloodline because I know it's from rape. What the fuck are you talking about? You keep promoting this Indian shit. When we know the African been enslaved by everybody. You feel me?
everybody wanted to roll with the slavery thing as long as they could.
That's right. They said, come and get them.
Yeah. You gotta take my slave.
Yeah.
Pry it from my cold, dead hand.
And I had no idea.
I hadn't either. This is amazing.
And you can clearly see Don Cheadle's nose is a nose of the African. Check this out.
Thing as long as they could.
That's right. They said, come and get them.
Yeah. You gotta take my slave.
Yeah.
Pry it from my cold, dead hand.
And I had no idea. I mean,
I hadn't either. This is amazing.
the United States government didn't make a treaty with the Chickasaw until 1866, forcing them to liberate their slaves and make them citizens. The Chickasaws freed their slaves, but they did not offer them citizenship in the Chickasaw Nation.
They still reject these wannabe Indian Negroes today. You can holler and scream with your feathers, but you ain't one of them because you've been tainted with that African blood. Boy, these niggas be killing me. The Christians, the Hebrew Israelites, the Muslims, the Jews, they easy to defeat in debates. And the Native American Negro who said the slave trade didn't happen, they ain't African, they always been here. Them niggas is lining themselves up to be easy defeated because of the data, the proof. This is proof positive. You say DNA ain't real, DNA is the science. How did DNA free OJ? How did DNA get a lot of people off death row for things they didn't do? So the science is there. The science works. The science is true.
White people, I mean, what's going on here?
But they did not offer them citizenship in the Chickasaw Nation.
Honorary white people, I mean, what's going on here?
Don, your ancestors were in Indian territory, yet they were neither Chickasaw nor were they Americans. They were a people without a country. And
they was neither Chickasaw or Americans. You were African. Yeah, man. This Pan-African shit be powerful. I love Pan-African philosophy because it moves the crowd. It get things happening. Peace to Niger for being a Pan-African country that kicked out the white man, not just debating. You feel what I'm saying? Peace to Burkina Faso, Pan-African, who kicked out France, not just talking and debating, hating our black skin. You feel me? Let's proceed on these Indian Negroes tonight. Pan-African swinging hard.
Without any legal status at all.
That's crazy.
The Chickasaw freedmen would spend decades in this stateless limbo.
Look at that brother right there. You tell me that's the Indian? You telling me that's the Indian? Hey man, get out of here.
Invisible and forgotten. By the time the century drew to a close, the United States government, the African American people wear racial mixture right on their faces. And the greatest percentage of our admixture comes from European ancestors. But for some reason,
come from European what? Let's check this shit out.
It's much easier for us to imagine another source.
He knew his grandmother, Elizabeth Redmond, and he said she was a full-blooded Cherokee.
Like almost all African Americans I know, my relatives are convinced that we have Native Americans in the family.
This is Lucy's sister, and she had hair down to her knee. I thought she looked, like a Native American.
And that's, like I said, that was my mom, and she wore 70s headbands.
Oh,
she was 70s.
Oh,
she looked like,
cool.
Everyone thought she was Native American.
I have a little Choctaw Indian in my background.
She looked like an Indian woman. She looked like, like straight off the prairie.
Mm-hmm. Talk about the cheekbone thing.
Mm-hmm.
They have my cheekbone.
Yeah.
She always had long black hair, and so, that's Indian hair.
But I've long been suspicious of these stories. How could so few Native Americans sleep with so many African slaves? That Tina grew up believing that two of her grandparents were part Native American.
But you're only 1% Native American.
She only 1% Native American. She upset because she don't want no African bloodline running through her veins It's mostly Europeans. Some of y'all got a lot of European in you. You don't want to be European, but you want to be Native American, but the Native Americans stuck the dick to us. Boy, some niggas is cowards.
You know how your family has always thought that you had all this Native American heritage?
Yes.
It was white heritage that you had.
All this time I've been thinking Indian. I was dying to find out what tribe it was.
You're from the tribe of Europe.
Wow.
And I'm 3% Native American. So I got just a little Indian.
You got a little Indian in you. 0% Native American. And 0% Native American.
There you go.
And
Chris Rock, 0 Native American. I'm killing these Negroes tonight with this false pretense.
So I got just a little Indian.
You got a little Indian in you. 0% Native American. And 0% Native American.
There you go.
And 0% who were Native American.
Now look at Freeman with that big old African ass nose. How in the hell you say you Native American with that big ass nose? That's African, baby. That nose is on the Olmec. Them 16 colossal heads over there in Mexico, Mesoamerica. Pan-African always winning the night. This Pan-African tonight. Pan-African tonight. We just had a solar eclipse. You feel me? Oh yeah, the paradigm. Yeah, the shift. Haiti tonight, baby. Bless Haiti.
And I have to tell the Choctaw
0% Native American. And 0% Native American.
There you go.
And 0% who were Native American.
And I have to tell the Choctaw Nation in Oklahoma. I misrepresented myself. I'm not Choctaw at all, you know.
And you'll see there's no figure for Native American because you ain't got no Native American. And you'll see there's no figure for Native American because you ain't got no Native American.
I misrepresented myself. I'm not Choctaw at all, you know.
And you'll see there's no figure for Native American because you ain't got no Native American.
Set the record straight.
Even Don Cheadle, who we would expect to have some Native American ancestry because of the connection to the Chickasaw, members of your family owned by Native Americans. But we don't find any.
Wow.
And you're not alone in not having any measurable Native American ancestry. 1 in about every 20 African Americans only 1 in 20 has any significant amount of Native American ancestry.
So apocryphal.
You feel what I'm saying? So all these Negroes proclaiming that they got Native American in them, they scared of the science. Because the science gonna reveal the truth. They say the science is fake, but we know the science is real because science have been exonerated people who've been falsely convicted of crimes. The science gonna tell you. The science was created by Kemet of DNA. Kemet is the Africans, the Egyptians. You feel what I'm saying? Hey, this is deep. This is deep.
1750, black folk peaked out. The population of blacks in America got up to 34%. And then the white society got very scared with that. They said, with that kind of number in this country, there's a possibility that blacks might get together with Indians. So then in every treaty that whites were signing with Indian treaties, they put an incentive in there for the Indians to turn against black folk. They say every time you catch a black, you're going to turn him in. So then in every treaty that whites were signing with Indian treaties, they put an incentive in there for the Indians to turn against black folk. They say every time you catch a black, you're going to turn him in. And they would pay an Indian $20 on average to chase down an escaped white.
See, this is what the Indians did to the black man, woman, and child in this country. They was down with the white man. A lot of Indians wanted to be the white man. So in this treaty that they had, they would capture blacks for the white man. So I don't want to hear that Indian talk. You proud of this so-called Indian bloodline that run through your veins. You should be ashamed, Negro. Rain dance to this real shit that I'm speaking tonight. This Pan-African TV.
Runaway slave. They track him in every time you catch a black, you would turn him in. And they would pay an Indian $20 on average to chase down an escaped runaway slave. To track him in the woods and bring him back to his plantation. And because of that, Indians in America allied with the white dominant society. And I keep hearing blacks bragging about the fact how much Indian blood they got. Indians were not your friends in history. They were not your friends. And I don't mean to put the Indians down. Indians got special problems. I'm not putting anybody else down. I'm not going to put the Hispanics down. I'm going to tell you the truth. And out of the 5 civilized tribes in the United States, all five of them sided with the South to keep slavery. In a 20-year period between 1840 and 1860, the biggest killers of blacks in America were Indians. And see, the Indians then, so that's what they were trying to get that kind of an ally between whites.
And that's what these Negroes keep bragging about. Hey, y'all make sure y'all mash up the likes. I could go further in depth on this, but I'm not going to waste my time with this because we at war. They could debate and lie all they want and say the slave trade didn't happen. They Indians. You know, you could keep following Dane Calloway. But it's easy to mislead a people who already hate being African. Peace and black power. Make sure y'all mash up the likes to support my channel. I'm fresh with this new sister channel because I knew that the authorities was going to play it like this. This the sister channel to Underground Warrior TV. This Pan-African TV, King Chris. Make sure y'all support my channel. Peace.